Greetings, salutations, and all good things in between. What's up, everyone? Matt here. Welcome to the Friday live stream. Happy Friday, everybody. I hope you had a good week. What do we got on store today? So there was an outage with AppSheet yesterday, so I'm clearly going to talk about that. I've got some updates about upcoming videos that I've got in the pipeline. I'm going to go over the expanded dashboard preview that's out there. It's scheduled for release on Tuesday. I'm going to do a sneak peek. Got some Patreon questions, and then I'm going to do some live chat. This is the thing I want to throw in at the very end. You got questions. If you have them, throw them into the end of the chat. I will answer them. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Let's do it. All right, so what do we got up? What do we got coming for all of our new things that are going on out there? Do we got any kind of new, I noticed, hold on, I noticed my background music ain't playing. Aw, no background music for y'all? Well, we're not going to let that fly, are we? You can just give me a couple of moments while I go to the media source, I do this, and I go... Is it already in the list? Background music? No. Oh, I deleted it. Oh, just before I added that little intro music. And we just can't let this fly. You know what I mean? Like, we gotta have some kind of background music going on. We just can't not have something to listen to. Gotta have something chill. This might be a little loud. My bad. Okay. Might be a little loud when it comes on. The background music, we make it so I can hear it too. So I can turn it down and get it out of the way. There we go. How's that? Let me know about the audio level for all the background music and for the mics and everything. I've been fiddling with things a little bit here. Like 5 minutes before I was gonna go live, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna change some stuff. Figures, right? So just let me know in the chat. I'm paying attention. If you got any problems, let me know. All right, so what are we doing? So I'm going to talk about updates, right? So I've got a plan that I've been putting together for my YouTube videos. What I really wanted to do was, like, August is next week, and so I really, like, I have TT IOTA that if you're a Patreon supporter of mine, head on over to patreon.com/MultiTech if you want to join, $10 a month. I have a few sample apps over there where it was the start of this idea for the Evolution series, which is where the shopping cart kind of came from. Like, there's the first version, and then like I did number 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? I'm gonna keep going. TT IOTA was really kind of the first version of that, where if you don't know, TT IOTA, TT stands for time tracker, and it's basically the app that I made when I was first starting my consultancy here. Like, I realized right away, like, I need a way that I can keep track of who I'm working for, who's paid me, how much they owe me. You know what I mean? Like, I had to have a way to do that. And I kind of wanted to come up with my own thing. So I made an AppSheet app for it. And over the years, this thing has evolved. It started with alpha, beta, I'm on IOTA. That's how many times it's gone. Like, each one of those major iterations was, all right, let's rebuild the app. So I'm at a point now where I really kind of want to rebuild TT IOTA. It's been years since I made it. I think it was 2017 or, oh my God, it's been almost 5 years now. So like 2018 or something like that when I built it originally. So I want to remake it. And I was going to do, like, I had this cool name, IOTA August. And I was like, oh yeah, dude, totally. I'm going to hop in and I'm going to do that. Nah, time constraints. You know what I mean? I started thinking about it. I'm like, all right, this thing that I'm going to build is going to be really complex. Like, it's cream of the crop, right? Just all of the crazy complicated things that I can think about that I would include inside my AppSheet app that would make it fun and useful and, like, handy. I'm going to throw them all in there. But, like, then I started thinking, like, okay, before I do that, I should probably touch on some of the basics about what I'm doing, because that way, like, I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of details when I'm building the thing, because I'm building the thing. So I'm not going to like, oh, let's deep dive into how you do stuff with the current user setup. Like, I'm not going to do that. No, oh, I'm not going to let's deep dive into, the difference between entities and intents and get some base data modeling knowledge in our head. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. So the plan is that I'm going to take, I have a giant list that I've been putting together. And the idea is that I'm going to take all of this stuff that I wish I knew, that I wish I would have known when I started. Like, that's the thing that I keep asking myself when I'm making these lists of ideas and topics and things. I'm like, okay, what do I wish I would have known when I first started doing all of this? Because there are some things, there's some peculiarities in AppSheet. There's also some base knowledges that are really helpful to have at the very beginning. Because if you have it at the very beginning, you've got a good foundation moving forward, right? So, like, the basic ideas that I'm covering right now at the very beginning is I'm going to start literally at the very beginning. I'm going to go over basic knowledges. So, like, data modeling, data normalization, right? And like a note about like how data normalization is different in AppSheet versus what you would normally do if you're following strict normalization rules. Go over basic references, parent-child. Go over the difference between a reference and an enum reference. Like, that would be super helpful to know at the very beginning. Go over basic data types, specifically like lists, right? Like, you need to know what you're doing with lists at the very beginning. Go over IDs, like, okay, for the different types of like entity and helper type tables, like they make sense to have a common sense value where like the ID is the name of the client, maybe cleaned up so it's, a little neater or whatever. Same thing for like the project, same thing for a category, same thing for a vehicle, right? These are like the reference and helper style and things, data points that you have inside your system. So like they kind of make sense to make the ID for those a common sense thing versus an intent where it's like one of those, like I'm doing an inspection where I'm doing 50 of these a day. Like the common sense thing doesn't make sense there. I also want to talk on like auto incrementing. You know what I mean? Hey, Hamlet, welcome to the stream, man. Thanks for joining in. Always happy to see you in the stream. You're always here. You the man. IDs, yeah. So I want to talk about auto incrementing IDs because, you can do them in AppSheet, totally. But there's some peculiarities that you need to be aware of. You know what I mean? And then things like naming conventions. Like there's certain tricks, there's certain tips that I've kind of come up with over the year that kind of make it easier to just work inside AppSheet and to just get everything done. I'm going to go over all of that. And that is going to be like video number 1. Then I want to go over the specifics of AppSheet. So like the different data sources and what's good about them and what's bad about them. Talk about how like structure matters inside AppSheet and how everything needs a column. Like even the little display things that you want to throw in there, like, oh, I want to put a graphic here, or I want to put just like a little header text. You got to have space for that, which is kind of counterintuitive sometimes. I want to talk about how the sync works in AppSheet. Like this is something that's absolutely critical for people to know when they're first starting off with your AppSheet journey. Is like you need to know that the sync isn't a live thing. Like everybody's working from their own cached version of the database and then uploading it, and then there's like this process that happens, and like those are the things that I wish I would have known when I was first starting off, because it would have saved me a lot of difficulty and problems in the future. I want to talk about virtualization costs and like the difference between static data points and dynamic data points. The cost of select. This is a huge one. I'm always harping on this, right? You never end with me. I'm always saying don't use select. I want to talk about the difference between client side and server side, which is, really like action versus automation updates. I'm going to go over slice uses, right? So there's certain things that you can do with a slice that are really helpful. Like the current user slice is a perfect example of a global variable. What are we doing with the current user slice? We're saying, okay, match the email to the email that's in the email column, the email that the person's using to the email in the email column, and hold that one record, right? So now that one record is a global variable in the system. So like slices can be used to create global variables. And there's tons of things you can do with that, especially if you get into like really complex nested like looping scenarios where like I need to hold this first one and then I can do all of this stuff. But like I've got this held in a global variable because it's like the grandparent or whatever. And so like I can link it to that. I want to go over data manipulation techniques, right? So this is something that's super, super helpful to know. Like you need to know how to work with lists. That's one of the most important things you got to know how to do, because 9 times out of 10, the complicated things that you're trying to do in AppSheet is with a list. I want to know how to do text formatting magic, substitute, left, right, mid, extract, all of those things you can do with text, because you can do some really complex magic with those things. I want to go over UX events. Like, man, knowing that I could take over the tap event for a table or a deck or a gallery at the very beginning, and then knowing that like, okay, it's not just one thing. I could put a stack inside there with a whole boatload of actions, and each one of these can all have a condition on them. So that like this one only fires off in a certain condition. This one only fires off in that place. This one only fires off with then. And if none of those go off, this one does. It's like, yo, if I would have known that at the very beginning, super, super helpful to know. And then the various action types. Like that one, I don't know, I'm probably going to sneak that in somewhere else and just get rid of it. But like, it's helpful to know of the different types of actions that are available in AppSheet. And then I've come up with some naming schemes you've probably seen in all my sample apps. I have like the set and the vertical bar, or like ref set, vertical bar. Like those little things, they really, really, really do kind of help when you get to because eventually, if you keep going with the app that you're building, it's eventually going to turn into a monster. Like it's going to eventually turn into the entirety of your business. Everything involved is basically some aspect inside that app. And like when you get to that point, you've got 1.5 billion actions. You know what I mean? Like literally it's a sea of actions. And so trying to find the thing that you're looking for, and like there's 1 billion of them in there. You can't remember what you called these things. Maybe you have a general idea. That's where a category in the name comes into play, because I could be like, oh, well, I know it's a set action. So then I can go up to the thing and type in set. Good. All of those are filtered down now. Those are just the first 2 videos that I'm working on. They got like, these are the real meat and potatoes of everything. After that, I have other ones. I haven't gotten into a whole lot of details for those yet, but the general idea is like, I want to do an essential formulas one, because, well, we all know that there's certain formulas that you use in AppSheet that you use all the time. And so knowing the syntax for those becomes really, really, really helpful, because then you can debug problems, because you know, oh, I'm supposed to have a second branch inside this if. Oh, that's the problem. I want to go over references, right? So like, yeah, that's a huge topic. Specifically, what I'm going to go over in that video is all of the highly complex things you can do with references. Like, how can I like dereference, right? Basic chaining dereferences. A lot of people are unaware that you can chain a dereference. This is like the most magical thing in AppSheet. It's amazing. And then list dereferences, which lets you get derivative lists, which is how you get all of the super efficiency inside your system. Because like, well, I want to know what are the unbilled whatever for my order, right? Okay, well, you can create an efficient way of getting that versus having to do some brute force select. It's all about references and slices, and yeah, there's magic you can do there. So I want to go over, like, this is a deep topic. I want to go over the current user system, because, well, it's current user system. I literally put that in every single app that I make. It's always there. Like, if I don't add it, I usually eventually add it. To be honest, like, it's always inside there. So I want to do a current user one where, like, and it's not just, oh, this is how you do it. Do the table, make a slice. No, yeah, man, that's not me. You know me. Like, I'm going to go over like, oh, you can do like this with it. You can do this with it. You can do this with it. All the crazy things that I've done over the years. Yeah, I got it all in my mind. I'll throw it in that video. We'll go over efficiency. This is going to be where it's like a super deep dive into why you don't use select. That's going to be really, really, right, Hamlet? I know, right? The current users is so helpful because you can do so much with that thing. And like, this is really just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many more. Like, if you get really clever and you start thinking outside the box, oh man, that's the thing I like about AppSheet is you can get outside the box. Yeah, so efficiency, I'm going to talk about that. That's where I'm going to go into I'm going to go into super detail about derivative lists, how to make data subsets when you don't want to use select, like the few instances where I've ever used select. Like, I'll talk about those and why I use them and I didn't do something else, because generally speaking, I don't have a select inside my systems anywhere, or a lookup, or like, I don't do any of that stuff. And if I do, certain places, like, it's highly controlled. I'm gonna talk about that in this video. I'm gonna go over the helper trio. So if you have the standard starting template, if you're a Patreon supporter, you got that. It's part of that standard starting template. It's the blue columns at the end: the update, automation trigger, and form type. The three most helpful columns that you can add to your AppSheet app. And there is so much stuff that you can do with these two, specifically with the automation trigger and the form type. Those two combined, mate. Oh man, you can do amazing things. And then this last one, I just kind of threw that in here because I haven't seen anything about something like this. Basic form setups. So, you know, over the years, I've kind of discovered, whatever, that there's really a few ways that you could make your form, like the interaction with the form, that are helpful. There's a lot of ways that you could do it that are garbage, that make for a bad experience, that make for a mind-numbing experience. And these are the things you got to try and avoid when you're building your apps, because in the end, people have to use your app. And if they have this sort of like in their head when they're using your app and it's there all the time, they're not gonna like it. You know what I mean? There's the but if it looks nice, right? Like, then it's like, oh, this is so nice. Yeah. So there's certain things that you can do. There's certain whatevers that you can rock. And so the basic form setups video is what I'm going to do for that. And that makes up the general idea of this foundational series of all the stuff that I wish I knew when I was starting. That's all I got for this little update section. Now let's move on to some comments. A lot of comments on these videos this week. This has been pretty nice. I really kind of dig it. Hold up, I'm gonna go back here. I just noticed. Just noticed that. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna drop that here. I'm gonna go here. Hey, we're cycling through them all. We're gonna go here. We're gonna drop that there. All right. Sorry, buddy. We were having some a little bit of technical difficulties over here, but we're good. We're back. Okay, so these some comments. Yeah, man. So let's see. So comment on the report table by where this is. I would like to know the limitations of these reports. Like, what's the maximum number of records that can be included inside of a PDF or an Excel report? So the maximum number of rows, yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure. I bet there's a limitation. I've yet to ever actually encounter that. Let's see. PDF limitations. Surely there's some kind of, there's a limit on data size. Okay, so there's an automation limits. And so if I go to automation limits, the maximum size of a table, okay, maximum days a bot can run, maximum number of rows processed for each row in this table. Now, that is different from the template. Like, inside the template, you've got like a start expression that then goes through all of the records. That's different from this maximum number, or this is for each row in this table. That's a different thing. The maximum for a prototype, maximum scheduled. Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I don't know if there's a limitation on like the actual. Yeah, I don't think there is. Yeah. I've produced reports before for some clients where like there was some that were like 30 pages. Like they were huge. It took forever to process. I don't know about CSVs. I don't know. I'm actually pretty curious about that myself. You know, if anybody has exported anything or whatever, like make a comment. If you're in the live chat, make a live chat thing for it. But like, it'd be kind of dope to know like what are some of the sizes that people are producing inside their documents. Like I said, I produced a report where like the result had like 30 pages and boatloads of images, dozens and dozens and dozens. Like the idea, it was an inspection app, and so like this was the report for the inspection, and the inspection had like 30 or 40 items on it or something like this. And so you had all of the like base report stuff, and there was some like yes no question stuff that was on the first couple of pages, and then the last bit was just a start with a nested thing that just ran through all of the images that were taken. And so like that gets to however big it gets. And yeah, I've never seen problems with that. I think I've exported a couple hundred rows inside of a CSV once. Like I was moving data from one place to the other. And like, I was like, oh, I'm just going to do it this way. And it worked. Yeah. So anyways, I don't really know. I'm really kind of curious myself. Let's see what else we got here. So this one is for controlling contacts with a Google script. Mohammed's asked, how would you use this to save contacts in an app for multiple companies? All right. So the limitation with adding contacts to your Google account, you can only add it to your account. Like there is no way for you to add a contact to somebody else's account. That's why anytime, like if you think back to any time where you've added a contact to your device, like you'll might remember, like it was always like it just dropped you into a thing and you had to actually do it yourself. It didn't throw it in. There's a limitation on the contacts API scope, where it won't let you like authorize for somebody else's account and then throw a thing over there. There might be a way to rock that. You know, that's the thing with Google and with scripts and the internet. You know, there's usually workarounds. So you could probably find something, but generally though, you can only add it to your account. Now you could create like groups for the different companies, right? And add the contacts to the different company groups inside your account. Or like if you had an AppSheet account, if you had a Google account for your AppSheet app, right? Then like you'd be adding the contacts to the app account. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's basically that. We go here to Mohammed's got another one on the enhanced dashboard sample app. He says also, how would we change the filters so that if we select multiple users, a task is assigned to from an Enumlist ref column referencing the user, okay, yeah, to show records of any of the selected people if multiple users are selected in the filter. Yeah, for an enhanced dashboard. Okay, so the solution there really is inside your dashboard. So if I open this app really quick, oh, that didn't do it. Would that do it? Oh yeah, here we go. So if I open the app and then I go to the report base, if I go into the app, it's actually opening the editor for me. Oh yeah. Okay, so like inside here, yeah, so for the enhanced dashboard, so what you're really trying to say is like, well, what if I select more than one thing inside this drop down, right? Well, the way to do that, in fact, I'll just do it really quick for you. So right now, this control box, the construction filter type is an enum, right? So if I go to the current user slice, Then I go to the user table, and we go to the construction type right here. You can see it's an enum. So the thing that I got to do is I need to change this to an enum list. And when I do that, that'll give me the ability to select multiple things, and then I got to change my filter. So if I just change this to Badoo, and then go, if I save that, this is going to cause a break. Oh, it didn't. Interesting. If I go to the dashboard job entries, go to the formula, right? Okay, so construction type equals, oh, that's why. So we got to reformulate. So now, since this isn't a single value, we've got to reformulate the data type because it's technically a list now. And so we need to make that a list so it's actually functionable in a list format for AppSheet. And then we got to like change the whole thing that we're doing, because we just can't say this equals this. No, we need to say this is inside that list. So if we go back here, first thing we got to do is we got to change this back part so that it's an actual list. So instead of doing an index, what I'll do is I'll do a split concatenate. And then I'll come over here, I'll close my concatenate, the end of the construction filter type thing, do a comma space, and do a space comma space as the split delimiter. Delimiter? I don't know, whatever. So now this is a list, and so now I got to change this from an equality to an in statement. So I just go back to the front, do an in, and then go to the end and close the end. Just drop down here, just like that. And drop this there. Yeah. So so the formula is if is not blank, the construction type, right? Then is the construction type in the split of the construction type for the current user. You got to go through this sort of split thing because the construction type is a list, and when you call the list like this, you're getting a list of lists, and the thing doesn't work with list of lists, so you got to take the list of lists and make it a list. That's where the split concatenate comes into play. There's documentation about this inside the AppSheet documentation. You can go and look in there if you really want. So if I save all of this, I think I'm going to leave this way too. Now, if I go back to my enhanced dashboard, I come in here, now I can be like this one and this one. So just show me all of those. See how it changed? And like I can say, cool, don't show me any. And then show me all of them except for roofing metal. Takes everything out except for roofing metal. That's how you do it, man. Yeah, see, like there's certain little formulas that just would be fantastic for like at the very beginning. Like if you just knew, okay, well there's two things there. There's like an equal thing that everybody knows, right? And then there's lists, which are an entirely different thing. And they like everything you do around them is entirely different. But it's an absolutely essential thing for you to know how to do, how to switch between, it's not a single value, it's a list now. Like that is like a skill that everybody should know how to do. Like, I need to switch from a list to a value, or from a value to a list. It'd be fantastic. We'll see, what is Hamlet saying in here? That whole split concatenate for fixing the type is something that should be highlighted, pinned in the documentation. Yeah, that sort of thing, it is inside the documentation. It's kind of, it has a little spot, but the documentation is really kind of like, here's one thing, here's the next one thing, here's the next one thing. It's not really deep, but like, yeah, this was something that actually, like, that took the having to do the split concatenate thing. That was something that actually took like months to figure out, because I was doing this thing where I had a current user slice with an enum list that somebody could select, and I was calling the value, but I didn't do the split concatenate thing. I just called the value. And so I was getting this list of lists, and sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. And like, man, back and forth with devs. Like, this was at a point where like we could actually talk to the devs in the community. So like I don't know how many times I had a conversation with Adam about like, what's going on with this thing? Like, why doesn't it work? And eventually we settled on that list of lists. It was like, oh, I see what we got to do. I got you. Fixed it. Yeah, man, they should definitely make little things a little more relevant like that. That's what I'm hoping this starting foundational series will do. But yeah, that now this report table base 1 now has the ability to do an Enumlist selection for these. I'm probably going to go back to the actual enhanced dashboard sample app, and I'm just going to update that one. I'm not going to make a part 2. I'm just going to update it so that it operates on a list instead of a single value. Realistically, I should probably just default to doing things with lists because, I mean, that's what everybody, like, you're always working with lists eventually. So that's the report. That's that one. Thanks for the great questions, guys. I'm loving these. So if we keep going, thanks. Yep, thanks for the love. I appreciate it. Mohammed's got another one for the enhanced dashboard. How would we change the slice filter on an Enumlist? Okay, that's the one I just answered. Hey, buddy. Ami, oh man, this dude's always got some great insights. Hey, do you think we can use this type of form to generate reports for multiple tables instead of just creating a different process for each table? So he's talking about the report table sample app that I put out there. And yeah, so that report table that I did is really just like an extremely basic starting point. You can do anything that you want to do with that. Like you can go really far with nested tables. You could throw in, like, if you wanted to, you could do like pages inside the form where like maybe one page is all the filters for the parent records, and then like I can do another page and that's a filter for the next one, and then another page and that's a filter for that one. And like the only thing you're doing there is like you have the section of your columns that is for the filters, right, for the one, and you're just kind of like recreating that in another section inside your table, and then you just put a show column and make it a page header, right? And then so now you've got one page for the one table, another page for the other table, another page for the other table. You can do that. There's really, like, that's the thing with AppSheet, especially with like these sorts of like, oh, I'm gonna make something that will produce something out. Like there is no limitations. You can really do whatever you're wanting to do. That's why I love AppSheet, because there's no end of anything. You know what I mean? Let's see. Move on here to Yogo. Can you show us a bot using AppScript to create an event in a Google Calendar with recurrence, like piano call every Tuesday for 1 year? Yeah, mate. That I guess you'd have to. I'm betting. So you can add the calendar to your account, to your AppSheet. You can add your Google Calendar to your Google account as a data source. It's a little restrictive because you can't change very much. Like you can't change the data types, and so you can't really affect very much. It's actually kind of hard to work with, to be honest. But you could do that, and I don't know if you have access to recurrence when you're doing it through the AppSheet integration like this. If not, that just might be a feature request away. You know what I mean? Like someone might actually have already requested that. That calendar thing's been up for years. But yeah, you could probably do that with a script. I'll throw it on the list. It'll be a while. Let's see, what else? Ami's got a good comment about the shopping cart. He says the shopping cart app could be used by salespeople or contractor giving a quote to a potential client. I never even thought about, like, yeah, absolutely. Like that's the thing with these sample apps that I throw out, is like a lot of time I'm not really trying to present something to you that's for the topic that the app is for. You know what I mean? Like I'm not really trying to make an app that is a shopping cart for like when I'm shopping. Like that's not what I'm really trying to show you, is that there's this way for you to create a global variable that's an open that's an open order, and then I can create this sort of tap functionality where I can tap on a product and add it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to show you that there's this possibility of interaction that you can do with your app. And so, like, yeah, man, the way I like to talk about AppSheet, if you've ever done a one-on-one with me, I'll eventually say it. AppSheet's just like ice cream. Like, there's a whole bunch of different flavors of ice cream, but it's all still ice cream. Like, it's the same basic ingredients put together in the same basic way. It's just some of the other little bits around it are different, right? You're still making ice cream, just whatever flavor you're making, right? So yeah, man, I love that idea that you could put together a list of products or like a list of services. Like, this is something that could be helpful for me to come up with, like an app that I could make for me when I'm talking to a client, where I could be like, oh, they want this, they want that, they want this, they want that. And like, I could be doing this surreptitiously down on my desk. Like, I got my phone down here open to the app, and I'm like, oh yeah, that one. Yep. Oh yeah, that one. You know what I mean? And then they could give me a way to get some kind of like concrete-ish numbers right away. Love it. Man, I love it. That's why I love this sort of comment shit. Let's see. Estimating leak. He says, I have been trying for a long time to create a dash without having to use ref rows and interactive option. This nailed it. I have my dashboard using this filter option instead. Many thanks. You are quite welcome, man. I love helping people get out of the problems that they're in, you know? Let's see. Anything else real quick? Could you show bots? Yep. Okay. Shopping cart. Love it. Could you have a list of label? What is this? What does that say? How could I have a list as a label or title in QuickChart? Yeah. I don't know if you're aware, Luis, but there is a community for QuickChart. I'll throw a link down in the chat after the live stream's over, and I'll throw it in the response for your comment too. Yeah, there's a community inside there, and the Ian is the name of the guy that actually put together QuickChart, and he's super prevalent inside the QuickChart community, where if you have a question about how to do something like legit, I just go over and talk to him. Like, just post my questions like, mate, I can't figure this out. How do I do that? And then like a couple of hours later, he'll come back and be like, yeah, here you go. Here's a link to the code you need. Done. Like, it's so good, man. It's so good. So yeah, head on over there if you have a question about how to do anything like that. This guy knows. I mean, he literally built the system, so he knows how to do everything. Let's go back here. So I've been, yep, okay, get that one. I'm not sure. Promises. Is this like a promises? Like promises? Okay, yeah. Yeah, so far, hey, so one of the videos that I put out was a like, hey, what do you want? What do you guys think would be a good word to use? Blueprint tables, record tables. Somebody suggested seed tables. Generally the most that I get is blueprint tables. Yeah. So I think that's kind of what I'm going to like stay on there. I'm going to stick with that one. Let's see. Majid wants to know, how can I remove the save option? I made a calculator only, so I don't want users to save changes. Yeah, unfortunately, there is no way to not have the save on your app. You have to have that. You could change the, like, so with your app, you have, let's see, can I get an app open really quick? So on your app, you've got the ability to localize. That was the word I'm looking for. You have the ability to localize things. So if you go to UX and localize, right? So these are all of the basic system texts that the system is using for, like, this is the words that it's using for yes, this is what it's using for no. So like, you could change this to whatever you wanted, you know, to like negative or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, so in here, there is the save, and you could change this to like a bunch of spaces so that the save button is just blank. I've seen people do this before and it works. It can get kind of weird. This is a universal thing. So this change is reflected everywhere. So every form that you have inside that app, none of them have the save button. The text just doesn't exist down there. But yeah, this is kind of a workaround you could do. Really, the thing that you could do, I found, this is a handy, neat little trick. If you have a table, but you have a table, but the permissions for the table, so like the actual Google Sheet itself, if the Google Sheet doesn't have write permissions, like if it's just a read only, like you put protection on the sheet for like one person, right? So nobody else can can change it. Okay, then you connect that table to your AppSheet app. Okay, you can create records, you can go into the form, and you can save, but because you can't write to the table, it doesn't write the records. So that might be the solution you're looking for your problem here, Majid. Because you wouldn't be removing the save option, right? But when they save the record, it just disappears. You know what I mean? It's off into oblivion. Goodbye. I found this out when I was putting out the guide tables that I put out forever ago, and I haven't really done very much with. I noticed that people were able to add the guide table to their app, but like you could run through the form and then hit the save button and it wouldn't save a record. It wouldn't actually do anything. So it allowed you to go through the form and not have any kind of like results come out at the end. So that's probably what you're looking for. I hope it helps. Let's see. What else? Okay, DJ Flex Kid talking about the enhanced dashboard. Just in time as I'm building a bunch of dashboards, maybe you can expand on this, on like actions and download views as CSV within the dashboards, including Enumlist columns for multiple selections. Yep, you're welcome. Just did it. But I like this one though, like this download to a CSV. Like the real idea behind the report table sample app that I made, like I started that from copying the enhanced dashboard sample app. That was actually where I started from. The reason is because like the part 2 that I'm going to make for that is how can I take all of the stuff that I have inside my enhanced dashboard and just like push that into a report. And I want to do it, and I don't want to go through the form. It's just like I want a copy of all of this in a PDF. Hit a button and you get it. That's going to be part 2. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe so you get notifications and all that good stuff. More up, guys. More love. How to change. Here's a good one. Dickie Kurnia is how can I change the background color of a formula to black? You can't. If what you're referring to is the fact that when I come inside here, let me get to a space really quick. Like when I come inside here, this formula space has a black background. If that's what you're referring to, that is the AppSheet toolbox. You can find it in the Google Chrome web store. It's made by AppSheetTraining.com or CrewTech. I'm not sure which one actually. I think it's Crew that put that one out. It's a fantastic little thing. Like, not only does it give you the ability to, like, if I go up here and I show you the toolbox settings, like, yeah, so you've got all kinds of little things that you can do with this. So, like, it's got the different theme. So I chose Blackboard. That's why it has the black. You can specify the tab sizes. So, like, I only want mine to go in 2. You can do whatever ones. And then you've got all of these options, right? For you to, like, you can do autocomplete things. You can auto-close tags and brackets. I turn them off just because I think they get in the way. But, you know, this is a fantastic little thing. You get, not only does it do all of this help for this expression assistant, but it also gives you this little sidebar, which, to be honest with you, is where the real magic is. Because over here, what I have is I've got snippets. I've got access to all of the schema, so all of my tables and all of my columns, and this is live updated. So, like, whenever I add a virtual column into the mix, it's inside that list immediately. I have a list of all of my views, so if I need to get the name of a view, it's there. And the documentation doesn't work right now. But, like, I can go over to these snippets. This is where, like, most of these are all available. If you go to AppSheetTraining.com, and you look for like my profile over there, MultiTech Visions, you can find a whole bunch of these snippets that I have that I put over there for you to copy, because these things are fantastic. Like I've got the force sync thing. I've got this basic switch statement that's based on view type. I use it all the time. I've got like current user stuff. I've got sorting an element to wherever it sits in the list. That's a super helpful thing to do. Like I've got a net 15 little thing. I've got context view type does not equal form. So the real ones that I really use the most though are things like I've got this list of state abbreviations. I've got this list of all of the states. I have this common sense thing. I've got this name of the month from the month number. Like that's fantastic. Yeah, anyways, so I have a bunch of these things. This is what I really love it, because it's the ability to save that and then I can just drop it over here like that. You know what I mean? Fantastic. And then you got your schema. This is super handy. So the Data Explorer is kind of like an answer to what this is, but like, I don't know, this Data Explorer thing is usually kind of broken. But like you can come in here and like it gives you the name of all of the tables and all of your columns. It's fantastic. You have all your views over here. Yeah. So that's how I got my formula space to have a black background. I installed the AppSheet training toolbox. This guy right here. How you doing, man? And then some other good stuff. We'll save the rest of those for later. We need to get moving on. This is going to be a long stream. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. I do appreciate it. Now that I've gone through a whole bunch of these comments, I do appreciate it. Make sure that if you got questions or whatever that you're kind of working on right now, at the end of this live stream, I am going to do a live question and answer type thing. So get your questions in the chat. But let's move on. So I'm sure if you were awake yesterday, you know there was an AppSheet outage for about an hour. It was around 1:30 to 2:30 Central. That's my time yesterday. It lasted for roughly about an hour, and like they were on it though. Like within half an hour, within 20 minutes, they already knew about it and they were already trying to fix it. Evidently, it was a little bigger of a problem than just the little thing. Yeah, it affected everybody worldwide. Like one of the things that I posted a comment in one of the threads that was started for this. I asked everybody like, where are you? And literally worldwide, there was people everywhere. It was actually kind of cool. I mean, it sucks that AppSheet was down, right? But it was actually kind of cool to see where people are. You know what I mean? Like, wow, look at all of these different countries, all of these different cities and like nationalities and like languages too, man. It was just amazing. The actual length that I actually experienced, like I started a stopwatch as soon as I kind of realized what was going on. I'm like, oh, I should start a stopwatch because I'm going to talk about this on the live stream. 58 minutes and 2 seconds. That's what I got on my stopwatch. The last major outage, someone was looking through the community and they found this post where evidently it was October of 2021. And so, yeah, if we look, here's the date, 8/10/2021. Yeah, usually like these sorts of things they're rare. Like they usually don't happen. They do. They're usually really short. Like today or yesterday was really kind of like an anomaly. Maybe it's a yearly thing. I don't know. If we think about it, maybe it's actually happened probably once a year. It's like, oh, time for the dumpster fire. Anyways, now, so that was the major news for what was going on this week. We had this outage, right? Other than that, there was just a couple of little things that were put out. The app script execution time. So if you don't know, there's the ability for you to literally execute a script from your automation. The timeout time for that has been expanded from 1 minute to 5, which could be very handy at some points because there's some scripts that take forever to run. That happened. There is a new experience that's coming out for adding a table to your app. They're gonna, kind of change the views so that it looks a little nicer, if you will. That should be coming out here in the next month or so. And the biggest news, right, is there's a new desktop experience that's coming out. It's scheduled for next Tuesday. And this is the thing where if you've been in the community and you've seen that post, there's a ton of hype about this. There is actually some behind the scenes beta testing that's been going on. I've been lucky enough to have been included in that. And so I thought, since this is going to be released on Tuesday, I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek of what it looks like. So this is an app that I have that I've been working on. It's an SLA ticketing app. Just let me draw your attention to some of the differences. If you look down here at the bottom, you'll notice there's no bottom navigation bar anymore. Now everything's over here on the side, and I can expand this so that I can just do the icons or do the actual names. If you look, so this is a regular dashboard that I made. It's an enhanced dashboard I made, or not enhanced. It's a interactive dashboard, just a regular interactive dashboard. And you can see when I click on one of the items, now I've got this nice little, they've kind of grouped these things into cards over here, which is really kind of nice. And you've got this little box over here with the actions on it. It's pretty sweet, right? So if we go somewhere else, this is another dashboard. Let's go to not a dashboard, but let me take you to just a regular table. So here we go. I have a yearly schedule. So this is a table view that's grouped by month, right? So I didn't do anything for any of this other stuff. This is just how it naturally comes now. So I have all my groups over here, and I can expand these so that I can see, I don't know, whatever that is, whatever is inside the drop down. Not sure what that is, but I can click on it and I can see all of the rows in the table. Now here's the fun thing. If I click on the row, now I get the detail view over here automatically, and I can do things like I can resize these things. So if I want to see more on this detail view over here, right? So if I go to, let's go to this month. If we look at today, right? So I can see everything that's going on today. And then if I go to another child record for this table view, I get this over here. So now I've got look at all this nested information that I've got on my screen. And if I want to close it, there's just an X up here. Goodbye. Done with this. Goodbye. It's pretty sweet, right? Let's see what else. So this is a dashboard, a regular interactive dashboard where I've got a deck view and then the detail view. I did nothing special to this at all, and you can see it really kind of looks a lot nicer now, right? It takes up a lot more space. Really gives you a good little view of what's going on. You've got the ability to filter things over here. You can move through, and you can see when I change what I select, the thing over here is highlighted. The buttons, there's this button bar up here. If I go back to the home screen, I can show you. So I've got this settings button up here. That's pretty cool. That actually says settings and things. It's pretty neat. Let's see what else. If I go to, this is another little dashboard, right? And so, yeah, you kind of getting the sense of what you can do inside here. And if I just, okay, encountered an error. Yeah, buddy, found a problem. That's why it's still in beta. But so here's this is for this app. This is really kind of the primary interaction thing. And yeah, so I mean, this looks pretty nice. You know what I mean? And then if I want to add a table, they've changed the form thing now. So now it's this little side thing that I got going on over here. And so I can just do whatever I need to do inside here. I could just, okay, it's I'm gonna escalate this to tier 1. There we go. It's pretty nice, right? If I click the edit button, it does the same sort of edit thing over here where I've got all of this. And you can see they've changed how they do an Enumlist. This is a new interaction style for the Enumlist. That's pretty dope. I threw in a suggestion. I'd really like to be able to rearrange these while I drag and drop. You know what I mean? Like, that was the intuitive thing that I tried to do when I saw this. I was like, oh, sweet. Click, drag. Oh, it didn't work. Oh. So I put in the request. Go find it and vote yes. Yeah, that's basically the search bar is now up here in the middle. But, you know, this is what it is. Yeah. It's, and you can kind of switch. So, like, this is, you know, and then if I wanted to expand this, I can expand to the full screen. Now look at this. Like, AppSheet just did this all by itself. Like, I didn't do anything. It came up with these groups. I'm sure there's probably some way for us to, like, eventually when this becomes an actual thing, like, there's probably going to be some, like, how-tos. You know what I mean? Like, I know I'm going to come up with some where it's like, okay, if you want it to look like this, do this. If you want to do this, do this. But, like, this is just a detail view that AppSheet grouped all this little stuff together the way that it was. And, like, yeah. Like, oh, here's fun. Ooh, okay, so all right. See, you can get into some weirdness if you start like going really deep into some nested things. Like, you can get into some weird, like, okay, if you look over here, so if we ignore this and we ignore that, if you look, it starts creating this sort of like, oh, that's as far as I can go. But it starts creating this sort of like, if I shrink this space so it doesn't have the room anymore, like, it goes to this sort of tab thing. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So anyways, that's the that's the new desktop interaction thing that's coming. It's scheduled for release on Tuesday. They were supposed to release all of this stuff this week. I have a sinking feeling that this might have been what caused the major break that happened. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, no, that's coming out on Tuesday. Look for it in the release notes. All right, let's get to the next half, I guess, of this this series. I'm going to answer some Patreon questions. All right, so the first question comes from Brad, I think. And he says, I have a situation where I would like to create the ability to send emails or texts to certain groups and select the reference rows that I want to include. For instance, I am on a project and I want to email my customer for that project reference rows from a certain child table. I want to open an email form, pick the specific person that I want the email to go to, write a little blurb, choose the list that I want them to see, and then send the email. I'm pretty sure that I can figure this out, but seeing how you would do that would be fun. I would also be interested in possibly being able to toggle that email form to also send text notifications at the same time to the same person. So, the solution for this really kind of centers around the sample app that I just put out, the report builder. Like that sort of interaction style where you create a form and inside the form you've got a whole bunch of different fields for the person to select what is it you want to see, and then it produces a document out of that, right? So the report table is really kind of the starting point that you could shoot for, right? To get like, well, what do I need to do in order to make this work? Like the idea would be, you know, you come inside here and instead of doing, like, you could include these sorts of filter things so that you could filter your records. But like the idea that I would go for is at the top, there would be, you know, what client do you want? And then select what project you want. And then that would give me an enum list of all of the child records. What I would do, like here, so if I go to my report table, like what I would do inside here is like I would have a column that is an enum list. Then I would drive that based on all of the child records for whatever parent you selected. So like in here, I would go into the valid if, and I would do some sort of dereference where I say, go to the parent thing that they selected and get the related list of whatevers, right? And drop that inside here. And then that would give the person the ability to select in an enum list fashion. Be like, oh, I want this child record, that one, and this one. So then you'd have your list of things that you selected. You could have another list like you have an email list in here where you insert the people you want to send it to. You could do a toggle where it's like, do you want to do a text? Yes, no, right? And then send it out. Part 2 of this is, I don't know, part 2 or part 3, I can't remember. Another version of this report table is going to be to send the thing out to people. Like that is definitely something that needs to be included inside this. Like I made a report that generated a file. Now email me the file or email the file to other people. So in the future, I'm going to make a sample app where I do cover that in detail. So stay tuned for that. But that should get you generally started on the path that you would need to follow in order to do something like that. Then you just have to go through and just like on the sample app for the reports table, you make your template that actually produces like the PDF thing that you want to see. Then you'd also have to make the task for sending a text out, right? With like what text do you want to see? Because you'd have to figure out like, you can't send records through a text, right? So you'd have to figure out, well, what do you want to display to that person in the text, right? Oh, well, hey, I've sent you whatever, and then like maybe a count of how many records you selected. I don't even know, but that's the general idea. Yeah, that sort of form, this sort of table form where like you have a whole bunch of criteria and then you can select other things and then like generate a file from that and then do something with the file. Like I do this all the time, all over the place for a whole bunch of different things. Some straightforward, some where you wouldn't think to be like, oh, we're gonna make a file for that. Okay, fair enough, that works. Yeah, I hope that helps. I hope that gets you in the direction that you're shooting for. The next one comes from, I can't remember. I think this may be coming from Brad too, or I'm sorry whoever put these in there. I'm gonna get the name on here next time. Promise. Okay, so the things, if I kind of clean this up a little bit, there we go. All right. Hi, Matt. Again with the shopping cart. I am coming across a situation where accidental taps on products results in them being added to the cart. Even when you cancel the entry, you still end up with a product in the list. Sure, you can remove it afterwards, but it would be fantastic that when you cancel the input, the item is not added to the list. Next level AppSheet skills are needed. Not really, my friend. Not really. The solution for this is it's surprisingly simple. It's just not occurring, right? The solution, right? So what we're really doing, the reason this is happening the way that it is because of how the input function actually works. So input is actually still inside beta right now. It's actually not an actual thing that they've released for general use. That's why I largely don't use it inside any of my apps because sometimes it just doesn't work. But like, so right now you can't use input when you're creating an item. Now I tried this. It's actually in the sample app already. So this is the action right here that creates the item, it adds the thing to adds the product to your order. And if you look inside here, right, so we set the order link to the building order. We set the customer product to whatever product you clicked on, the record you actually clicked on. And then I have this order quantity detail where I do have an input formula already there. The thing is that input doesn't work when you're creating a record. That is something that is a future installment of input that they will eventually get. They want to get the first part, whereas like you've already got a record, we're using it to modify the value that's there. So that's part one. So it eventually, when they get that expansion put in, like this thing will do that, and then you'll actually get like two quantity pop-ups, and you'll have to go through and remove one of them. But so the reason the item is added to your order is because, and then you're asked for the quantity, is because of that, right? Because we can't ask you for the quantity when we're making the record. We have to first make the record, then do the quantity thing. And the way that we did the quantity thing, you'll recall, if we go back to your order and we look, there's this list down here of all of the related order details, and then I've got this last item order detail, last order detail item. And you can see it's an index, and what's happening there is I'm literally pulling out the last item out of this related order detail list back here. I'm saying take all of these items, count them, and give me whatever the number is for how many there are, the last one in the list. So we're holding that as like a global variable now, right? Because I'm holding my order as a global variable in that building slice, which means all of these columns are now essentially a global variable. So I have the last item that you added to the order as a global variable in the system. And so that's what gives me the ability to where after you add it, then I can say, cool, for the thing you just added, do this ref set quantity input. So if you look here, right? So the thing we're doing is from the products on the order details on the building orders last order detail item. We're literally calling whatever that is as the global variable, and then we're saying execute this set quantity action on that. That's why you get this thing after the fact, and you can't do it all in one shot. It's because input's not there yet. Eventually it'll get there, and it'll be super smooth. The thing you got to do now to smooth this out, right? So like I get what he's saying, like I tap product 6 and then I hit cancel. I'd like product 6 to go away. But if I look back here, it's on there already. So what do I have to do in order to make that work? Okay, well, there's a little fiddly things that you got to do, but like surprisingly really easy for you to get this done. The thing you got to do is it's the same mechanism that we use to execute that input. We have an action that we're executing on that last order item that we're saying, okay, get the quantity for that, right? Okay, that action, this guy right here, ref set quantity item from product. This thing, right? This mechanism is the very same thing that you would use to delete this record, right? Because we're saying on that record, do this action. So instead of setting the quantity, I can just run the delete action on that thing. But I need that to be smart, and I need it to know when that last quantity doesn't have anything inside it. You know what I mean? So the way that I could do this, whole bunch of different ways you could do this. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to use a lookup. I don't do lookup very often. Sometimes I do. Lookup actually processes super fast, surprisingly. So what do? Okay, so I'm going to copy this action, and then I'm going to change the name. So this is going to be ref delete no item quantity. Leave it like that. And so now same setup. The only thing that I'm going to change is the action that I'm doing. I'm going to delete the thing. So then now I come down here, and so the thing I need to do is I need to adjust this formula, because what I'm planning on is I'm going to take this action that I'm building and I'm going to put it inside this tap action. So the way that this product thing works is when you tap on the product, it executes this stack of actions, and based on whatever's happening inside the order, whether it's building or not, like if there is a building order, some of them execute. Whether or not the thing you tapped on is already inside the order, a different thing happens. So what I need to do is just throw something inside that says, is the last item's quantity empty? If it is, run this delete action on it. Now the delete will ask you, do you want to delete this? So if I go back to my action, this ref delete guy, yep. Okay, go into the formula. So what we're really trying to say is, let me go and get a formula from, here. So what we're really trying to say is like this thing, if this item's quantity is empty. Okay, so how can I get that value? So if I go back to the formula space, so if I just drop that in there, that gives me some of the bits that I need in order to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a lookup. I'm going to say look up this row dot oh no I can't do this row. No, look up this, but I can't just throw this up there by itself. I have to pull the item out of it because that's a list, and technically we need a single value. So this is where index comes into play. Index, building orders, order item detail, give me the first item out of that. Okay, so that is the item ID that I want to look up, right? Okay, that lives inside the order details. See, this is where the AppSheet training thing comes in handy, because I can come over here, I can put my let's see, I want to format this way. I can put my cursor where I need to go, and like I need to drop the name of the order detail table, just like that. And then in the order details, so where am I going to find this? This is going to be in the ID column, so it's this one. And what do I want? I want the quantity column. And if I close this, that should be, it's a number, it's not a yes, no. Okay, so this lookup formula gets me the number that I need in order to accomplish everything that I'm trying to do. But now I've got to turn this into a yes, no. What do I want to know? Is it blank? So is blank lookup, blah, 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 all of that stuff. So is this lookup blank? If this comes to true, then that means that the last record for the building order doesn't have a quantity. Okay, if that's true, then I want to execute this delete action on the order detail. Now I want this to happen after I set the ref quantity, because like the idea would be, so I tap a product, if there's already a thing there, the duplicate kicks off and we skip this one. If there's not a duplicate, this one kicks off, then this kicks off, then this kicks off. Okay, so I'm not sure if when you hit cancel on this quantity, if that's going to continue that stack or if it's going to stop the stack right there. Let's see. So the idea should be when I tap on product 10, it should add it. It should ask me the quantity. And then when I hit cancel, it should ask me if I want to delete it. Don't you like it when things work? Don't you like it when things work? Oh, man. Oh, that makes me so happy. Yeah, that was, to be honest with you, like I sat down and I thought about the theory about what I was doing, and I'm like, I think I know how to do it. Yeah, I'll do it this way. That'll work, sure. But I never tested it. I was like, oh, I'll just debug it through the thing. Totally worked. Oh, well, I want to go through and play with it all. I'll tell you now. Like, okay, nope. You sure you want to get rid of that? And so like now this gives you the option to where if you don't want to delete it, I can say, no, leave it there. Leave it there. Because then like I can come back here and I can say, I want to do 3. Or I can delete it. Did you know that you can drag these items left and right? Like I'm not sure if people were aware that this view down here is not a table. It's a deck. And the reason I use a deck is because I like to have this swipe right to edit. Like, I really like that. Like, I've been doing that in a whole bunch of my apps, a whole bunch of things that are smaller tables where, like, I don't need the whole table where I need, like, a whole bunch of columns. If it's just a couple of things, like, I'll make it a deck like this because then I can get this swipe right to edit. It's super, super awesome. Then you also get the swipe left for something. So, swipe left to delete. Booyah! But anyways, that is how you can set up your tap stack action so that if there is no quantity inside the thing that somebody just added, you can conditionally remove that item. There's one last thing we need to do for this. One last little thing before I call this done. The ref delete thing, this technically is not good enough. That is not good enough. What I need it to do is I only need that to run. So if I go into these and if I look at the original actions, yeah, they have this and statement where they're saying and is not blank building order ID. So like if there is a building order, this thing should run. I need to include that too into my new action. We go here, and we go here, and we just drop that. So all of these, if I do this, make it a little neater, make it a little cleaner, line everything up. So if there is a building order and then the last order item is blank. See, if I just left that by itself, that would have caused problems because if you think about it, if there is no building order, then there is no building order item. So when it tries to look that up, it will find nothing. It will always result in a blank, in which case that thing would always be firing off. That's a problem. Like, you can't have that. This is usually like, that's one of the things that like you'll find as you work on AppSheet apps over time. You'll find that there's a lot of other scenarios that you're not really thinking about. Like one of the most common things that people have is like, okay, I want to update the parent from a child. Like when I create the child record, update the parent or whatever, right? Okay, well then what happens when you delete the child? Did you make the thing for that scenario? Probably not. Most people don't, because that's like backwards programming. Most people are only programming forward. I'm stuck. I fall into this problem all the time. Like something will be deleted and I'll be like, oh shit, I didn't do backwards stuff. Oh man, now I gotta do all this work. So just something to keep in mind. That is what I got for all of that fun stuff. That is everything for the Patreon questions. I will make this shopping cart version 6. How far are we gonna go with this thing? I already have another one that I got to do too. So yeah, who knows? We get to like version 36. That'd be kind of fun. But yeah, that's all I got for that. Let's move on to the last section. Last section, everybody, is the live chat. If you have any kind of questions that you're working on, if you're doing something and you're stuck on something like for 5, 10, 20 minutes, who knows, I can get on some long rants, so that could turn into half an hour pretty easy. But like, you got any questions? Drop them into the chat, and I will generally come back at them at this point and try and get it. So I see Hamlet been super active inside the chat. Thanks, bro. Do appreciate all of the engagement. Yeah, man. Let's see. So talking about just add that here. The tip right there is truly an AppSheet insider tip. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. A lot of things get known when Matt talks about it. Oh, you guys are great. I appreciate it. Yeah, man. Let's see. So is there a run out time option for actions? Example is looping with an action. Okay, so like, is there a timeout option? So yeah, there is. Like eventually, if your timeout. So okay, if you're doing a loop where the system is, so like when you do something where it's doing a lot, sometimes you can have the eventuality to where like the system looks like it froze, right? In reality, what's happening in that situation is it's doing a shitload of stuff in the back, but it can't move forward because it's waiting for the end, right? And so it's like, and it's just sitting there chewing on what's happening. So like that will eventually time out. If you're executing that action through Chrome or through a web browser, like your web browser has, I think it's like a 30-second timeout window. And so like it'll time out then. If you're in a device, I don't think, like if you're running the thing on a device, I don't think the app has a timeout. Like it would crash eventually, maybe. If you let it go, like the thing that I've discovered over time, like when you get into that situation where it's like, it's just sitting there chewing and you can't do anything, it's frozen. If you let that go, like if I'm executing it through a web browser and like the thing comes up and it says, oh, this website's frozen. What do you want to do? Continue or stop? Like if you hit continue and like wait, you just keep waiting and you keep waiting and you keep waiting. Eventually that thing will finish. Like I've let things sit for half an hour. Like I went and I was like, all right, whatever. I'm going to go watch Netflix. And I went and I watched some TV and I came back and it was done. Like at some point in the middle of that, it finished what it was doing. So you can, those things will eventually finish if they don't crash the app. Now I have had times where my device was doing that thing and then like just the app shut. Like gone. Okay, didn't work. Like I never got those things to ever actually finish those types of things. As far as like limitations for the number, like I don't think there's a limitation for the number of rows that you could do something like doing a loop through or doing like a ref for a bunch of like a ref update on a bunch of records. I don't think there is a limitation for that. Like, yeah, no, I don't think it will. There are timeouts inside automation. Like automation has timeouts. So if it's trying to do something and it takes a long time for it to go through, like that thing will time out. I think you can adjust certain tasks. They have a timeout option. Like if there's a wait, or like if you're waiting for something, I think the wait one has a timeout toggle where you can turn that on and customize it. But yeah, no, generally inside the app, if you're doing something client side, like no, that'll usually, if it doesn't fully crash the system, it'll usually finish itself. Let's see. Please make a video about best practices for updating parent record on child record delete. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's in the that's going to be planned for the references video that I've got. So I have this foundation series I'm doing. In that, I'm going to have like references essentials, and that's going to cover like the base things that you can do with it, but then all of the advanced type stuff that I've done over the years, like how do I operate with lists? How do I do this? How do I do that? Yeah, that'll all be in there. Good suggestion though, Hamlet. Appreciate it. Let's see. What about using Wi-Fi with AppSheet? This is from Whale. Not sure what you mean by that. Well, using Wi-Fi with AppSheet. So the thing with AppSheet is that it's built for asynchronicity, right? So like it's made for, I'm on a device and like I could be in the middle of nowhere and I could lose my cell signal, right? Or I could lose Wi-Fi or whatever. So AppSheet is built around the idea of, well, what happens if we lose connection to the internet? Well, we still need to be able to work. So then there's some caveats with that, right? So like we had the outage yesterday, right? So I noticed that I always have my time tracker open. Like it's just a tab on my Chrome browser that I have pinned. And I noticed that when AppSheet was down, I was still able to work on my app. Like I was still able to do things in my app. I was able to create records. I was able to do this. It was great because I was still able to kind of keep going. The only reason why that was able to happen is because that particular app is really old and it was built before automation was even a thing. So there is almost no automation inside it. The only automations that are there are like the things that ported over from workflows that are basically creating files. So yeah, if you don't have, I made a comment inside one of the strings yesterday about this, that if you build your app and you have it open before things go down, and you built your app in such a way where you don't rely on data changes to be executed through automation. You know what I mean? Like if I don't rely on that and I do everything client side, so it's all done in the app, I can keep going forward because my app doesn't rely on the server for anything. Everything that it needs is inside the app, it's inside the records, and it's forward moving. So that's a handy little thing. But yeah, AppSheet's made for, if you lose connectivity or whatever. If you have a specific about that question about like, is there something special about Wi-Fi or whatever, just, drop a comment after the live stream and I'll touch on it. Let's see. Yes, I have to press wait multiple times, but it works. Yeah, right. Yeah. Eventually the thing will come back. Yeah, that's all I got. Hey man, thanks for joining me on this Friday. Might be evening for some of you. I do know that if you're on the other side of the planet, like it's 6 p.m. right now for you. And so this is like a Friday evening hangout. Like, hey, cheers. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. But I do appreciate you guys. I really do. Make sure that you check out AppSheetInsider.com. I'm starting to put some goodies and things over there. Always check out my Patreon. Wow, holy crap. Man, it's 1 a.m. Hey man, thanks for staying up and getting your Friday night. This is your entertainment for Friday night. Thank you. I feel very privileged to be the entertainment. But yeah, that's all I got. Thanks everybody. I do appreciate it. Make sure you drop any of your questions. There are, for the AppSheet news, for the weekly rundown section, like I'm always trying to push, like if you find something out there in the wild that you're like, man, this is dope, this would integrate with AppSheet, really, really cool. Drop it in that AppSheet news thing. Like if you find something that's really amazing, like I will tell everybody about that because everybody wants to know about it. You know what I mean? We're all in this together. But anyways, all right. Thanks everybody. Let's keep safe, stay cool, and I'll see you in the community.